strange as it sounds, extraordinary magic follows you around, and the camera can't catch it. You won't see it in the mirror. If I say look behind you, you turn around, it disappears. But I see it, I see it, I swear I do. I see extraordinary magic in you. Out of thin air you appeared in my life, like a burst of technicolor in a world of black and white. When my heart was locked inside a box, you reached inside, and now I see my future when I look into your eyes. I see it, I see it, I swear I do. I see extraordinary magic in you. And I know that miracles happen. Who cares what they say? 'Cause love's nothing short of a miracle happening over and over every day. So I'll keep my eyes open, awed and amazed, and if you start to doubt it, I'll remind you of the million ways I see it, I see it, I swear I do. I see extraordinary magic in you.
I just wanted to say thank you to you all so much for coming out tonight. I know I can speak for all of us seniors when I say it means a lot to have your love and your support as a church community. So tonight, I wanted to begin with a very, very basic question. What is this right here? I like to say there are no wrong answers, but I'm pretty certain we can all see that this is a phone. In fact, most of us in this room have one on us. Now for myself, this phone was a gift from my parents. I would like to say that I paid for it, but I'm a high school senior on a high school budget, and I'm about to leave for college, so I definitely did not pay for it. But regardless, when I turned 18, it was a little late, my parents gave me this phone as a gift with the best intentions in mind. Now, like any other phone, this phone can do a lot of things. I can text people, I can call people, I can make a calendar, order things online, and the list goes on and on. Essentially, there's so much that this one phone can do, so many opportunities that it presents. But we are met with a question. What do we use these applications for? Maybe we use them to have fun. Maybe we use social media to get involved. Or maybe we use our phone to keep a budget. Whatever the reason, I want you all to see one thing. All these applications present an opportunity to serve the Lord. In fact, any gift we have been given, any situation we are in, can be seen as an opportunity to serve the Lord. So tonight, if you do not know or recognize, I want you to see that each and every one of you has a gift or a talent. And if you have a gift, I want you to use it to serve others. And if you're already serving others, I want you to give all the glory back to God. So tonight, I wanted to take a look at one verse in particular, my life verse, 1 Peter 4:10. 1 Peter 4:10 says, "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace." But before we go ahead and dive headfirst into this verse, I want us to take a step back and just look at the context. So in 1 Peter 4, Peter is admonishing, teaching, or for lack of a better word, counseling people who have been persecuted and have become physical exiles from their land. In essence, they are religiously and physically suffering, with little to no hope. So here, Peter is teaching them how to deal with their suffering. 1 Peter 4, 7 through 8 says, "The end of all things is at hand. Therefore, be self-controlled and sober-minded for the sake of your prayers. And above all, love one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins." So Peter points out that this world around us is coming to its end. So why attach yourself to that which has already been condemned? Instead, he urges them to love and invest in one another, to reflect Christ and to prepare for what is to come. So now, we can put ourselves in their shoes and see ourselves in the same situation. From politics to this pandemic, we can see the world around us is falling apart, just in 2020 especially. Essentially, we are now those exiles, like the Christians back then. It may not be a physical exile, but we know that we don't belong here, and we shouldn't want to belong here. So we have to look to Christ and to what he has in store for us. And so how do we start that? By loving one another. So how do we love one another? Let's take a look back to 1 Peter 4:10 one more time. "As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace." So we can love one another through serving one another, and we can serve one another through using our God-given talents and gifts. So tonight, I want each and every one of you, especially the seniors, to know and recognize that you have a gift or a talent. And if you're like, "Oh, no, I can't possibly have a gift," I want you to ask someone close to you. They will tell you that you have a gift. For example, I'll admit it, I'm Matthew's close friend. And so as Matthew's close friend, I know he's very structured. He has a very logical mind. And as an aspiring engineer, that'll come in handy for him. And we can take a look at Chandler. You can see in the video, there's a lot of cars in there. He's very good with cars, so there you go, that's a talent right there. But everyone has some sort of physical talent. I want everyone to notice that, whether they recognize it or not. And on top of this, as Christians, we are also granted spiritual gifts by the grace and love of God. 1 Corinthians 12, 8 through 11 says this, "For to one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another workings of miracles, to another prophecy, to another the ability to distinguish between spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another interpretations of tongues. All these are empowered by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each one individually as he wills. These gifts, as it says here, have been given to us by one and the same Spirit. A wise man, or as wise as I like to call my dad, once told me that we all have been blessed to bless. Each of us has been blessed by this Spirit to serve one another. Unfortunately, I'll admit it, I often fall into the trap of using these gifts and talents for my personal gain, as I'm sure many of us do. Whether it be in the classroom, on the field, or in a work environment, it's easy to try and take credit for what we think that we're doing by ourselves. But we have to remember one thing. These gifts and talents are not our own. We have no right to take credit for what God has given us. Instead, Christ, who granted us these talents and gifts, calls us to use them to serve one another. So when it comes to serving one another, Peter uses a key phrase, "as good stewards of God's varied grace." So I wanted to take a look at the word steward. Looking at its Hebrew root word, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce, we can interpret the word steward as a household manager, an agent of something that's not their own. We do not deserve God's grace, yet he gives and blesses us with it. Romans 5:8 gives us the perfect example of his grace. But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So essentially, God's grace is an expression of his love. So God grants us his grace out of his love for us. Mark 12:31 speaks to us, saying, the second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So we are also called to love on others. So how do we serve others? As stewards of God's grace and his love. So we have God's gifts, and we know we have God's grace. What do we do with it? I think I've said it quite a few times already, but it won't hurt to say it again. We ought to serve Christ, and we ought to serve others. I want us to take a look at the parable of the talents in Matthew 25:14-30. In this parable, each of the 3 servants were given a certain amount of talents by their master, each according to his ability. In the same way, the Spirit apportions these gifts and these talents to us accordingly. Paul backs this up in Romans 12:6. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. So not all of us have the same gifts, and not all of us have the same amount of gifts. A great example would be us seniors. I'll say it, we're all very different people, and we all have a ton of different gifts. But this is the point where a lot of us can find ourselves playing a very dangerous game: comparison. It's easy to compare yourselves to others just to see where maybe you're better or where you're worse. I've done this myself so many times, and I'll admit it, I am wrong here in so many ways. First off, these gifts aren't our own, so there's no need to compete or to compare. And second, we should have the same mindset that we're playing the same game, we're on the same team, with the same goal as Christians, to serve Christ and to serve others. 1 Corinthians 12:4-7 explains this well. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are varieties of service, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who empowers them all and everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. So like those servants, we have the obligation to use our gifts, to go out into the world, and to have that common goal of serving others, all for the glory of God. So we know that we have gifts. We know that we are stewards of grace and love, and we know that we ought to serve one another. So all we have to do is connect those 3 things. What do we have to serve others with? Our gifts. Why have we been given grace? To give it to others. And why do we serve others? To honor and glorify Christ. So what does this look like in real life? Let me do 2 things for you. I'll give you the perfect example of the perfect servant and the perfect steward, which is the Sunday school answer, Jesus. But I want to also show you what not to do, and I'll be the example for that one. So in Philippians 2:5-8, we see Jesus as the perfect servant and steward. Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Jesus was literally the perfect, most obedient servant we'll ever see, doing everything with the right intentions. So now you know what a perfect steward and servant looks like. So let me show you what you shouldn't do. First off, don't take credit for your work. Trust me, I've taken credit for good work, I've taken credit for mediocre work, and I've even taken credit for bad work. Just do your work to the best of your ability, for the right reasons, for him. After all, we're not here to make ourselves look good. We're here to make him look good. Next, don't always act like you know what you're doing. I've made that mistake plenty of times. But being a servant will require a level of trust, a level of prayer, and a level of great humility. There will be things that he will make clear to us, and there will be things that he keeps from us. But it's all according to his perfect plan. We just have to do his work faithfully and to the best of our ability. Finally, don't feel like you're alone. It's very easy to feel isolated when you're fighting against all that society is trying to indoctrinate. This is definitely not a job you are doing alone. And this is definitely not a job that you can do alone. We have each other. And more importantly, we have Christ. Now all we have to do is serve and trust him. So when I pick up this phone now, what do you see? I hope that you see a gift and an opportunity. An opportunity to learn, an opportunity to serve, and an opportunity to honor Christ. Everything we have, every situation we are put in, is an opportunity to serve him. After all, are we not stewards of his grace and his love? So to the seniors especially, and to everyone else here today, I challenge you to recognize that you have a gift, to use it to serve others, and to give all the glory to God.